The story of the Mahabharata can be said to begin at many points in the narrative. But if you come to understand the epic from the point of view that it is an account of how karma functions, then it becomes clear that every event is both a result of what happened before it as well as a cause of what followed. So let us start our story on the day when King Shantanu of Hastinapur was on the bank of the Ganga and fell in love with the resplendent river goddess. Shantanu asked her to marry him. Ganga said yes, but she also had him promise her that he would never question her decisions. The love-struck king agreed to all that she asked. For a time, they were happy, and the people of Hastinapur were happy with them. But when the couple had their first child, Queen Ganga drowned it. King Shantanu was devastated, but he kept his promise. He asked his wife no questions. He said nothing as one by one Queen Ganga killed their next 6 children. But when their 8th child was about to meet a similar end, Shantanu could no longer hold his silence. When he asked his wife why she had killed their children, he was told about the 8 Vasus who had been cursed to live mortal lives for a crime committed long ago. Ganga had agreed to give birth to the 8 celestial spirits and free them from mortality as soon as they came into this world. After telling Shantanu the truth, Ganga left him, and she took with her his one remaining son. One day, 16 years after his wife left him, King Shantanu of Hastinapur found himself back on the banks of the Ganga. He missed his wife and the son she had taken with her. Shantanu's sadness was interrupted by the sounds of fighting. He found that a young archer had tamed the mighty river Ganga with a barrage of arrows. Shantanu had never seen such skill or such daring. Then Ganga appeared to him. Shantanu's happiness knew no bounds when he was told that this radiant young man was none other than his own long-lost son. His name was Devavrat. Before Ganga left them, she told Shantanu that Devavrat had been taught the art of war by the warrior sage Parshuram himself, and it was sage Vashishth who had taught him knowledge of the Shastras. A happy Shantanu brought back to his kingdom its new prince. The people of Hastinapur could not be happier. They loved their future king. Time passed, as it always does. Before long, Shantanu was in love again. He lost his heart to a fisherman's daughter by the name of Satyavati and asked her to marry him. But Satyavati refused Shantanu, even though he was a king. It was her father's belief that even if Satyavati became Shantanu's queen, her children would never be kings. They would always remain secondary to Prince Devavrat's children. There was nothing to be done. Shantanu could not deprive his son Devavrat of his birthright. So he returned home alone, his heart broken once again. Back at the palace, his unhappiness was all too visible. He stopped meeting people and attending to his kingly duties. Prince Devavrat noticed this. He could not allow his father to suffer in this manner. Devavrat decided to take matters into his own hands. He decided to go reason with the fisherman and his daughter himself. To soothe the pain in his father's heart, Prince Devavrat paid a visit to Satyavati's father and begged him to allow his daughter to marry King Shantanu. But the fisherman remained adamant. Even when Devavrat agreed to give up the throne, which was his by birthright, the fisherman said that there was no guarantee that Devavrat's children would not assert their right to the throne of Hastinapur. He was, after all, the king's firstborn son. It was then that Devavrat swore an oath. It was an oath that shook the earth and the heavens. It was an oath that would echo down the corridors of history and eventually bring about a war that would reshape Bharatvarsh. Devavrat vowed that he would never marry. He vowed to never father any children. Before all the gods, he swore this for the sake of his father's happiness. And thus, Devavrat the Kind came to be known as Bhishma, he of the terrible oath. The prince's solemn vow stole the fisherman's courage from him. He did not object when Bhishma took Satyavati, his future mother, with him and rode towards Hastinapur. When the prince united King Shantanu with the woman he loved, He expected his father to be happy. But instead, the king felt as if his feeble heart had brought ruin upon his kingdom. A sense of doom filled his heart. However, he recognized his son's sacrifice and granted him a boon. He declared that his virtuous son would be able to choose the moment of his death. Without his consent, death will not be able to touch him. Bhishma kept his promise. He watched over the throne of Hastinapur like a silent guardian. Under him, the kingdom remained strong. No enemy dared cross paths with the legendary son of Ganga. After the passing of King Shantanu, Bhishma acted like a father to his two half-brothers, Chitrangad and Vichitravirya. He taught them statecraft and brought them up to be capable administrators. But before long, Chitrangad battled a Gandharv and was killed. Vichitravirya, who was not in good health, became king of Hastinapur. Bhishma feared that if something happened to his brother, there was no one to inherit the throne of Hastinapur. Bhishma decided to get his brother a wife, and soon. He stormed into the court of Kashi on the day of the Swayamvar and kidnapped the three princesses of that kingdom. They were called Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. After Bhishma brought back the three princesses of Kashi to Hastinapur, the eldest of them pleaded with him to be allowed to go to King Shalva, the man she loved. Bhishma apologized to her and said she could go wherever she liked. Her sisters Ambika and Ambalika, however, stayed back and were welcomed by Queen Satyavati. Amba thanked Bhishma and set out happily to meet King Shalva. She was sure that her beloved will welcome her with open arms and they would live happily ever after. But when she reached Shalva's court, she was met by rejection. King Shalva told her that he could not accept her, as she had been taken by another man. He said that to do so would mean humiliation for him, and advised her to go back to Bhishma and beg him to marry her. As far as Shalva was concerned, Amba belonged to Bhishma. With her heart in 1,000 pieces, Amba returned to Hastinapur and told Bhishma of what had happened. She asked him to marry her and rid her of the shame of belonging nowhere. But Bhishma said no to her plea, as his vow of celibacy prevented him from marrying. Amba had no place in his life. Amba grew furious. She accused Bhishma of ruining her life. She asked Bhishma that if he did not intend to marry her, what reason did he have for dragging her away from her Swayamvar? She blamed him for all the misfortune that had befallen her. She declared that she will not rest till she had punished him for his crime. Amba set out to find someone who would exact her vengeance. But no matter where she looked, there was no warrior or king who would dare challenge Bhishma. The legend of the son of Ganga was everywhere. Out of fear and respect for Bhishma, everyone refused to be Amba's champion. All hope lost, Amba went to sage Parshuram, who was believed to be an avatar of Vishnu and had once even been a teacher to Bhishma. Parshuram gave Amba hope. He said he will convince Bhishma to marry her. But Parshuram had spoken too soon. When it became clear that the son of Ganga would never give up his vow of celibacy, the angry sage challenged his disciple to a fight to the death. Bhishma and Parshuram fought fiercely. Each warrior exhausted all his strength and skill on the other, but to no avail. At the end of 23 days of fighting, there was still no winner. Bhishma could not kill Parshuram, the warrior and the avatar. Parshuram could not kill Bhishma, the demigod blessed with Ichhamrityu. The combatants were too evenly matched. There was not going to be a solution to this problem. Eventually, Bhishma's will prevailed and Parshuram gave up. Amba did not get her revenge that day. But as she left the battlefield, it was clear that she had not lost hopes of one day becoming the reason for Bhishma's death. It was not long before a terrible illness took King Vichitravirya's life. His death brought twin tragedies upon Hastinapur. Not only did the kingdom not have a king, it now also did not have a prince. Despite there being two queens in the palace, Vichitravirya had died childless. Queen Mother Satyavati decided that Bhishma's celibacy had gone on for long enough. She ordered him to father the children of Ambika and Ambalika. He was, after all, the only surviving son of King Shantanu. But Bhishma remained steadfast and said that he will not marry. Even when Satyavati asked him to choose a bride from another kingdom, Bhishma did not budge. Helpless, Satyavati was forced to tell her son a secret that she had kept hidden all her life. She told Bhishma that he had a brother, a son that Satyavati had before she ever met King Shantanu. Once, when Satyavati had been a young woman known as Matsyagandha, a sage by the name of Parashar had fallen for her. Their secret love had created Vyas, a child blessed by Parashar to be the greatest poet the world had ever seen. Since Satyavati could not keep the miracle child with her, she sent it away. Vyas, who grew into a man within moments, promised his mother that he will appear when she summons him. That time, Satyavati told Bhishma, had now come. Vyas came when Satyavati called upon him. She asked him to father the children of Ambika and Ambalika. Bhishma was relieved at the thought that the throne of Hastinapur will not go empty. The shock of it, however, was too much for the two widows of Vichitravirya. Sage Vyas was not pleasant to look at, and the sight of him had already struck terror into their hearts. In their fears was the future of Hastinapur. As per his mother Satyavati's wish, Ved Vyas paid a visit to Ambika. But the young queen could not contain her fright when she saw the uncouth-looking sage. She did not resist when the sage took her into his embrace, but she closed her eyes. When Vyas told Satyavati that as a result of Ambika's fear, the child born to her will be blind, Satyavati was frustrated. What good will a blind king do, she wondered. Since Vyas was to visit Ambalika next, she warned the younger queen to keep her eyes open at all costs. Ambalika did as she was told, but she was no less afraid of Vyas. When Vyas took her into his arms, she turned pale with fear. Later, Vyas told Satyavati that her child would be born pale and will suffer bad health. Satyavati was furious. In her anger, she asked Vyas to pay Ambalika a second visit. But when Vyas did so, the frightened Ambalika sent in her place a servant girl. When the servant girl faced Vyas, there was no fear in her eyes or her heart. She accepted the ugly-looking, forest-dwelling sage with love. Time passed, and the three women gave birth to the future of Hastinapur. Ambika gave birth to Dhritarashtra, who was blind as foretold by Vyas, but he grew to be strong and kind. Ambalika gave birth to Pandu, who was pale and weak, but he grew to be a great archer who was loved by the people of Hastinapur. The servant girl gave birth to a child called Vidur, who grew to be one of the wisest and most learned men in the land. Vidur even came to be considered an avatar of Yama, the god of truth and death. The three young men grew up under the tutelage of their uncle Bhishma and were taught all there was to know about politics, warfare, and the Shastras. But even as they grew, there was unspoken rivalry between Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Bhishma never noticed this. Vidur did. There were too many contenders for the throne of Hastinapur now. When the time came, blind Dhritarashtra ascended the throne of Hastinapur. He was happy about it. Having been the elder of the two brothers, he had always considered the throne his birthright. His younger brother Pandu had no objections and was content to serve as the commander of Hastinapur's armies. But it was common knowledge that even though Dhritarashtra was the king in name, it was Pandu who ruled Hastinapur. It was the younger brother who ran the kingdom with help from the wise Vidur. The ministers of the court understood this as well. Soon, it was time to create alliances with other powerful kingdoms. Bhishma talked with the king of Gandhar and made it known that he wished for Dhritarashtra to marry Princess Gandhari. It was an ideal match. But Gandhari's father and her brother Shakuni grew worried when they discovered that Dhritarashtra was without sight. Princess Gandhari surprised them all, saying that she had long known that her husband would be blind. She embraced her destiny. Because her husband could not see, Gandhari vowed that she too would give up the gift of sight. Before the horrified eyes of her brother, Gandhari blindfolded herself for life. Her brother Shakuni could not bear to see his sister ruin her life like this. He was known widely as a man of great intelligence. On that day, Shakuni, the future king of Gandhar, silently decided to put his mind to use to avenge this grave injustice. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari married in a grand ceremony, and all of Hastinapur was happy for them. It was for the first time in years that the kingdom had a king as well as a queen. Later, Pandu married as well. He had 2 wives, Kunti and Madri. All was well with the world. No one could be happier. But as Pandu was to soon find out, his elder queen Kunti had a secret in her past. A secret that would change the world and bring gods to this earth. The story of the secret in Kunti's past starts when she was a young woman, growing up in her uncle Kunti Bhoj's court. She was wise and full of life. The king, her adoptive father, loved her as his own daughter. One day, sage Durvasa paid a visit to the court of Kunti Bhoj. Durvasa was known for his fierce temper and his habit of laying curses upon people for the slightest offense. Everyone in the palace, from ministers to serving maids, was scared of the legendary sage. Everyone except Kunti. Kunti served the sage with good cheer and kept him company. She spoke her mind and engaged him in spirited conversation. Durvasa, who was used to people fearing him and keeping their distance, was delighted with Kunti. When the time came for Durvasa to go, he gave Kunti a gift. He whispered into her ear a mantra. When the innocent Kunti asked him what the mantra was for, he only told her it was a way for her to summon any god she wants. Kunti was confused. Some time after Durvasa had left, Kunti decided to test the gift he had given her. She beheld the blazing sun in the sky and spoke the mantra. In no time, Suryadev, the sun god, stood before her in all his glory. Kunti was in shock and could not answer the god when he asked her why she had summoned him. As she stood in the blinding light of the celestial being, Kunti realized that the mantra was not merely a way to summon a god. Suryadev took Kunti into his embrace. She was lost in his light. When the light faded and Surya left, Kunti found in her arms a child. He was the most beautiful thing she had seen in her life. He was born with golden earrings and was armored as well. Kunti could sense that he was destined for greatness. But she also understood how impossible it was for her to keep him and to claim him as her son. She was, after all, unmarried. With a heavy heart, Kunti did what no mother should ever have to do. She placed her son in a basket and took it to the bank of a river. There, she cried in anguish and showered her smiling son with blessings. She looked up at the sun and begged Suryadev to watch over him. Then she placed the basket on the waves and watched it float away.
At a time when all was well in Hastinapur and no wars threatened the kingdom, Pandu, along with his wives Kunti and Madri, decided to spend some quiet time in the forest. The 3 of them traveled into the woods and reveled in the beauty of nature. They enjoyed the forest and each other's company. The tribes who dwelled in the forest thought them to be gods who had come down from the heavens to grace the woods. Pandu, who had recently won wars all over Aryavarth, took to hunting in the woods to appease his soldiers' instinct. But one day, in his arrogance, Pandu made a mistake that would cost him and his kingdom dearly. In the heat of the hunt, Pandu shot an arrow at a hermit couple who were making love. Before he died, the hermit cursed Pandu. He said that because the arrogant Kshatriya had killed him while he was in the throes of passion, the moment Pandu becomes intimate with a woman, he will die. The curse that had haunted Hastinapur for generations had come to visit Pandu at long last. In his sadness, he grew silent as stone. His wives were disconsolate with sorrow as well. Together, they made a decision. Pandu sent word to Hastinapur that he will not be returning. He decided to take up sannyas. Kunti and Madri too stayed back in the forest with him. While everyone at the palace was unhappy when they found out about Pandu's sannyas, blind Dhritarashtra considered this news final confirmation of the fact that the throne of Hastinapur was his for good. But things were far from being that simple. When Pandu was in the depths of despair, Kunti told him about the gift that Durvasa had given her. Without mentioning the child she had from Suryadev, she told Pandu that when she utters the mantra, she will be able to call upon any god and bear his child. Pandu was overjoyed. He asked Kunti to waste no time and give Hastinapur its future kings.
The deity Kunti called upon first was Yama, the god of truth and death. In the darkness of the forest, Yama responded to Kunti's chant and gave her a son who would be the very embodiment of virtue and patience. Pandu was beyond himself with happiness. He named his first son Yudhishthir, he who would keep calm even in the heat of battle. In the years to come, Yudhishthir would become the mental rock that his brothers rely upon in times of turmoil. Kunti then called upon Vayudev, the wind god. His stormy embrace gave Kunti a son who would be as strong and as fast as the wind itself. When Kunti was giving Bhim to Pandu, she dropped him. But when Pandu saw that the baby's fall had shattered a rock, he was pleased with Vayu's gift. They named their second son Bhim. Bhim would gain fame and be known all over the world as a hero of unmatched strength and courage. After this, Kunti spoke the mantra once more and called upon Indra, the king of the Devas. The night spent with Indra gave her a son destined to be one of the greatest warriors the world had ever known. When Pandu beheld his third son, he was struck by the child's expression. He thought the boy had an archer's eyes and became convinced that the world will come to acknowledge his talent one day. Pandu and Kunti named their third son Arjun. After Arjun's birth, Kunti made it clear that she would not mother any more sons. Despite Pandu's many pleas, she refused to use the mantra again. Madri, however, was still without children, and Kunti agreed to help her become a mother. Under a night sky full of stars, Kunti spoke the mantra and summoned the Ashwin twins for Madri. As a result of her time with the celestial brothers, Madri had two most beautiful sons. With his 5 sons, Pandu spent a joyful time in the forest. Yudhishthir, Arjun and Bhim trained with the forest dwellers, while Nakul and Sahadev grew in the care of Kunti and Madri. Pandu almost forgot about the misfortune that had visited him recently. But the curse was inescapable. One day, when Kunti returned from a journey into the forest, she found that Pandu was no more. In a moment of passion, Pandu had lost control and forced himself upon Madri. His death, which had been waiting in the shadows all this while, finally took him away. When Pandu was cremated, Madri chose to enter the flames herself in order to share her husband's fate. Hastinapur lost yet another son, and with him, a daughter as well. After the death of her husband, Kunti could not bear the sight of their sylvan home anymore. It reminded her of all that she had lost here. After spending a few more months in the forest, she said her goodbyes and left for Hastinapur with the 5 sons of Pandu. For the Pandavas, Kunti was everything in the world now.
A combined understanding can give us answers to questions like, what is good? What is evil? What is the meaning of victory? We know the Gita as Krishna's counsel to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But was it Krishna who created it? Or was it poet Vedvyas who was speaking the truth of the universe through Krishna?